Lionel Mora is a bioengineer and the co-founder and CEO of Neoplants, which uses bioengineering and directed evolution to create what they call plants with purpose. Their creation, Neopie, is the first plant designed to fight air pollution and has been proven to be as effective as 30 of the most performant houseplants in capturing and recycling harmful, volatile, organic compounds from indoor air. Please welcome Lionel Mora.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me fine? Good. So 5 years ago, I left the comfort of big tech to chase more radical innovation and deeper impact in the real world. I co-founded a company called Neoplants, where we're building the first generation of plants that are bioengineered to fight air pollution. Today, I want to tell you about my journey to discovering the world of synthetic biology and its potential. And my goal is to give you some perspectives on how important and exciting bioengineering could be in the context of building a more sustainable future and fighting climate change. My first step on this journey was to realize how powerful nature is. It is so simple to dismiss what is just around us, what has always been here, what is so familiar and common. It's so much easier to dream big about the unknown, what's beyond and further away from us. This probably explains how much fascination, money, and energy is going into living the world we live in, going somewhere else. Two big examples of that, what you can see on the right-hand side, are space exploration and the metaverse. What you can see here is how much money went into the Apollo program and how much money Facebook was planning to spend on the metaverse over the next 10 years. Billions and billions of dollars going into living somewhere else. Of course, I love space exploration, and I'm definitely a kid of the internet, so I'm not going to tell you we should not invest in those things. What I'm saying is, in a world where climate change is striking, there are very strong signals of where we should be looking at. 98% of the oxygen we breathe comes from plants. 80% of the food we eat comes from plants. And yet, over the past century, we've been ignoring that, been taking that for granted, and we've been putting this vital resource at risk. I'm not going to go through the depressing list of data points demonstrating this, and I'm not here to tell you about reforestation or planting trees, even though that's important. I'm here because I believe plants at the dawn of synthetic biology can play an even bigger role than what they currently do. So, in the history of science, plant biology has been a bit left behind. Human biology, animal biology, and to a certain extent microbiology have been far more advanced fields until now. But plants are extraordinary organisms. To start with, plants cannot move. They cannot leave their environment. They have to deal with it. So over millions of years, they have developed exceptional skills. They have learned to partner with their environment to thrive and survive in some cases. We're surrounded by self-replicating machines that can turn light and CO2 into water, sugars, and oxygen. Any solution that we're building today that want to have a chance against climate change has to be able to operate at massive scale. Plants have this scale built in. So the question I want to ask today is, what if we could empower them to do even more? So the next chapter on the journey was to learn about what's possible. In a world where bits, large language models, and machines make all the headlines, there is a new frontier that is slowly taking shape in the background. It's a frontier that is made of atoms, DNA, and living organisms. Synthetic biology is a field of science that involves redesigning organisms for useful purposes by bioengineering them to have new abilities. And there are a few breakthroughs that are allowing us to do this. I'm going to give you a few examples. First, we can read DNA like never before. And we can do that just as we read the source code of a website today. Today, we can sequence any genome of any organism in a matter of hours for a few $100s on a USB stick. 20 years ago, this would have taken hundreds of millions and years to do that. Second, we can code DNA on a computer. It's not zeros and ones, it's 4 letters, and it doesn't appear on a screen, it happens in real life. So we can write that code, but we can also build a digital model of an organism to understand how it works, its architecture, and to predict what changes can or cannot be made. Thanks to our ability to code DNA, we can then even design custom proteins to allow plants to do things that they cannot do normally. So we can then print that DNA that we have coded and start working with it in the real world, in real life. We can check our code, we can test it, we can iterate on it, optimize it, and then integrate it inside the plant's genome to add these features. And from that single cell that we transformed, we can regenerate a full organism. Actually brought you an example right here, from one single cell. These innovations unlock phenomenal possibilities and perspectives. By leveraging plant bioengineering, we can start working with plants as living machines with an input, an output, and their own mechanics. We can recode them to unlock their potential and to bring solutions to the market that are sustainable by design. The third chapter was to start building things. So over the past 5 years, our team at Neoplants has been building NeoP1, which is the first and only plant bioengineered to purify the air in your home. The problem we start with is indoor air pollution, which is 2 to 5 times higher than outdoors. And on average, as we spend 90% of our time indoors, that makes indoor air pollution a serious issue, leading to asthma, allergies, cancers, and millions of premature deaths every year. Now, indoor air pollution is due to a specific type of pollutants called VOCs, or volatile organic compound, which come from a lot of things we all have indoors. Paints on the walls, pieces of furniture, or even household products. And we don't have good solutions for that today. On the one hand, we have air purifiers, which, on top of consuming electricity and making a lot of noise, for most of them, pollute more than they purify the air. On the other hand, we have regular houseplants, which a lot of us really love, but unfortunately, they are too slow at capturing the pollutants, and for most of them, they can't really deal with them. So we asked ourselves, what if we could work with nature to make it do a little more? And what you see behind me is a graph showing the performance of our first product, NeoP1, compared to what is described in scientific literature as the most air-purifying plants out there. We test them against one of the pollutants that we target, and these are the first results that we are very happy to share. So our system is equivalent to up to 30 regular houseplants in terms of air purification. So how does it work? We work on the plant at 2 different levels. First, it's microbiome, the microorganisms that live outside and inside the plant, that we select and optimize to supercharge their air purification capabilities. Second, the metabolism of the plant. So we're going to work on the plant itself, where we design and insert new synthetic metabolic pathways to allow the plant not only to capture more efficiently those pollutants, but to recycle them into plant matter. At the end of the day, what we get is a living system that can clean the air 24/7, no electricity, no noise. And this is a starting point for us, and it's just one example of what is possible today. The merger of biology with a systematic and engineering approach is opening wide perspectives in many, many industries. And this can have a phenomenal impact on climate change. I'm going to give you a few examples of that. What if we could engineer trees that can capture CO2 way more efficiently and store it way more efficiently than what they currently do? What if we could recode some crops to allow them to resist drought or flood or extreme weather changes? What if we could engineer plants that can grow in desertic area like this tree or in marginal lands? And what if we could engineer plants to produce high-value molecules such as vitamins, vaccines, or pigments? These things are not imaginary anymore, and they are being built today, some by us, some by others. But what is important is to say that even if they are not totally market ready, the state of this technology is such that they are part of our reality, and this is something I would like to bring your attention to. Now, the current chapter is about bringing things to life and spreading the world. So, just a few months ago, at Neoplants, in our lab, we prepared our very first commercial prototypes to send them to production in the US. And it was a very big moment for us because the crazy vision we started with is starting to turn into reality. These little babies will be grown into bigger plants and will be sold or delivered, because they're already sold actually, to a couple of hundred lucky ones in the US. It took us 5 years to get to this point. And let me tell you, the to-do list is still long and daunting before we can ship this to much larger scale in people's homes. And what I want to tell you is that the reality of bioengineering and deep tech companies more broadly is that they're insanely hard. And biology is a different type. I know some people can relate in the audience. But I'm so happy to see that deep tech is becoming more and more popular with exceptional companies like SpaceX, OpenAI at the moment, and many, many more, changing the world we live in a very public way. Now, it is crucial to realize that these companies did not get to where they are overnight. And we have a tendency to forget that. It took them years, sometimes decades, to get to a steady starting point on their journey. It took them time and the right partners and investors to keep pushing along the way, where they could probably have died 1,000 times. The world right now is a messed up place. And the reason why we're here or watching this is probably because we're worried about that, or we believe we can change things for the better. Probably a combination of both. Now, I am convinced that if you want deep impact, you need deep tech. And we need that more than ever today. As some of you in your respective industries or in your own lives might want to start a deep tech journey, I wanted to share some of my first impressions. Yes, deep tech is probably one of the hardest things one could start, but there has never been a more urgent time to put all our efforts behind those things. We have a dramatic tendency to look for answers very far away from us. With the rise of synthetic biology, the answers to our biggest challenges might just be around us. So if we are willing to look more carefully at what we already have, there is a greener and brighter future that lies ahead of us. Thank you very much.